Triforce Heroes! Hello everybody, this is Zelda Man 1994 and welcome back to the next Zelda Rants video! Yes, the long-awaited Zelda Rants that I promised how long ago? I said it'd be a while before I could really start to work on it because of tech limitations, but I got myself a tripod and I got a Zelda shirt! I got two now. Anyway, let's be on the point. So, let's get talking about Triforce Heroes, the game that I just yelled about a second ago. Let's get started. Where to start? So, let me get a reference over here. So, Triforce Heroes was one of the last mainline Zelda games that came out before Breath of the Wild. It released in 2015 and was relatively heavily promoted, I would say. It was promoted as a multiplayer experience like Four Swords was in Four Swords Adventures. But the key difference here is that instead of having 4 people to play with, it would just be 3 people. And for instance, like in the game, you have 2 ways you can play the game. The first mode is single player, and you know, it's just you. It's just you playing. However, the multiplayer, only 3 people can play at a time. You can't have 2 people, it's just 3 people only. And it's weird, it's not really explained why the 4th player thing was dropped, because there's a hint in the game that would suggest that either you could play with a 4th player, or that, I don't know, I'll explain the other thing when I'm going to talk about the story, whatever. So anyway, a 3-player game that was mainly focused for multiple people to play. It's not very good though, and let's get into that. So the story. So it takes place almost directly after A Link Between Worlds, where Link has finished off Yuga Ganon, has saved Lorule from its darkness, restored its Triforce, and the hero Link decides to go on a little quest, and he takes a trip to a place called Hytopia. It sounds like Hyrule, doesn't it? Hytopia, Hyrule. It's, you know, a combination of Hyrule and Utopia. A place where trouble doesn't really exist. A place where fashion is very much a heavy part of the society of Hytopia. It's fashion. That's what the whole thing revolves around. And he visits Hytopia and learns that Hytopia's princess, whatever her name is, I can't remember the name because why would I? I think she's just called Princess. Anyway, that's not important. The princess has been cursed by this evil witch, and you want to know what the curse is? No, it's not like some sort of sleeping curse like in Zelda 2. It's not a curse where like she would die in the next 3 days or whatever. It's not even something as like important as if this curse is placed on the queen or the princess, the whole kingdom would fall into ruin. No. The curse, she has to wear a one piece. An ugly one piece. That's the curse. And the thing is, because fashion is such a big thing in Hytopia, this is a pretty major thing to the people. However, the whole problem is just cosmetic. There's no actual threat to Hytopia. Keep this in mind, the curse that was placed on the princess is not one that would really affect the kingdom at all. I mean, yeah, it would affect their morale a little bit, because like, oh no, the princess has been cursed and she has to wear an ugly one piece. And? So? It's so dumb. So Link steps in and he has to fight through the Drablands. Not the Badlands, the Drablands. And he must acquire pieces of the witch's like apparel. I don't know. It's not very important. The story is pretty basic. Pretty much Link appears in Hytopia, learns of a curse, helps the princess, defeats the witch or the queen or whatever her name is, and that's it. The 3-person aspect is kind of incorporated into the story, but the problem is that it has some weird canonical issues. Like, the game is canon to the timeline. It's canon to The Legend of Zelda. However, what that means is that the gameplay aspect is kind of odd the way it works. So basically, when you play the game and you're playing through the Drablands, you can play as 3 different Links. One is a green-haired Link, the other one's a red-haired Link, the other one's a blue-haired Link. Now this is different from the green, red, blue, and purple tunicked Link in Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures, because those are actual Links. They are 4 Links that came from the one Link because of the Four Sword. Whereas in Triforce Heroes, the story is that, or the reason behind there being 3 Links is that when you step into this room, this old man forces part of your spirit into these doppelgangers, which are just weird statue things that have weird faces. And I wish I could show you a picture, but I honestly don't care enough to show. You can look it up yourself if you're really curious. But that's the thing. It's just, you know, you and 2 other Links, or doppelganger Links. But the weird thing is, and here's what I'm not really sure why they did, is that when you're playing the game normally, before you step into the place that allows you to split yourself into 3, Link has blonde hair, like he would in the Wind Waker or something like that. He has his own hair. But when you step into the doppelganger room, you have the green hair, and likewise with the other 2, the red and the blue hair. Why? I don't know. It's weird because Hytopia had been putting out calls for heroes to help with their conundrum, and there have been a lot of imposter heroes or people that wanted to help out. Not the real hero, of course. But from what I gathered, the reason for the hair color differences is that they are dressing up like the hero, but because they're imposters, they aren't Link. Like, they look like him, but their hair is dyed to signify they are not Link. And that's the weird thing about it, because that's the multiplayer thing. And, like, the single player, I think, does that too, where, like, the hair is dyed differently. Now, I mean, like, that could be, like, in story, oh, the hair is changed because we put yourself into 3, so there has to be some more differences to signify which Link you are and which one's a doppelganger. But it still doesn't make any sense, because it still reminds me of they're just doppelgangers and this one's just some sort of imposter. It's really weird, and it's a weird hang-up. And there's not much story to it either. There is less story in Triforce Heroes than there is in Breath of the Wild. Which, I mean, honestly, Breath of the Wild has a much better story. Duh. Triforce Heroes' story isn't dark in the least bit. It's not even imposing. It's not even, like, something that you want to hurry to do. Because, honestly, the whole problem of Hytopia is laughable. The princess is wearing a one piece. Oh no! You know, so dumb. Huh. The graphics are fine. They look fine. The game runs on the 3DS, and it uses the art assets from A Link Between Worlds. So, I mean, there's that. So it looks fine, but it's like nothing spectacular, of course. But it very much borrows a lot from Link Between Worlds. I mean, this is like the thing, because like you can't really make that a negative, because Majora's Mask is just borrowing the same art assets from Ocarina of Time. But I don't know. I don't know. It looks fine. I think the biggest problem I have with the game is the fact that it's called The Legend of Zelda. Now, here's why that's important to me, and why that is a big deal. Instead of calling it Zelda Triforce Heroes, or just calling it Triforce Heroes, or something else that would be like, you know, this is a Zelda-based game, but it's not in the main timeline. When you put The Legend of Zelda in front of the game, that means that it is a canonical timelined game. Like, Breath of the Wild has The Legend of Zelda before it. Whereas Hyrule Warriors, or Definitive Edition, or whatever you're playing, or Link's Archery, or Link's Crossbow Training, does not have The Legend of Zelda in front of it. Because it's not a canon timeline game or anything. It's just a game that has Zelda aspects. Whereas this game, Triforce Heroes, is in the Zelda timeline. Why? I don't know. here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking originally that Triforce Heroes was going to be something else, like some sort of bigger sequel to A Link Between Worlds, but they wanted to... Here's the thing. I'm tangenting real quick. Yeah, tangenting. I'm making up new words as I'm going on. We're going to go on a tangent here. Triforce Heroes came out around the time that we were waiting for Breath of the Wild to come out. Because Breath of the Wild had 2015, release date, and then in 2015, we got a thing that was like, oh, Breath of the Wild is being delayed to 2016. And I was talking to Marissa Blackwing on the phone, and I was like, they've got to put out something Zelda to, in the meantime, to, let us wait, and, something like that. Some sort of, like, mid-game to keep us going, to keep the wait going better. And they did. I called it. It's just not what I expected it to be. Triforce Heroes got announced, and it just kind of came out of nowhere. It got promotion, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. It was really weird. And what I'm thinking was that it was originally going to be a different game. Like I said, a bigger sequel to A Link Between Worlds, but it didn't happen. So yeah, instead we got a multiplayer-based game that the single-player experience is incredibly lacking. Oh, and here's the thing. The game mechanics. The reason why I hate the game when I'm playing it is because it's very sloppy. It plays like A Link Between Worlds does in most aspects. But the thing is, like, you can switch to your doppelgangers as well through the use of the touchscreen. However, it's not like you can map the changing to a button. Like, it's only on the touchscreen. And it takes about a second or two to swap over to the different doppelganger. Which, like, a second or two, no big deal. However, you are constantly, if you're playing single player, you are constantly switching to these doppelgangers to solve puzzles. And it's not immediate. It takes some time. And, like, each, like, little mini dungeon or whatever takes, like, about 5 minutes or something like that. They're bite-sized, but they're annoying for doing single player because there's a lot of time you have to wait. You have to think about what you're going to do. You can't just immediately switch with a button like you could in Four Swords Anniversary Edition. Instead, it took time to swap over. And that might have been, on purpose so that it made you like, hey, if you want to play this game better, use multiplayer. But multiplayer, while it is good, it's locked to the region you're set in, and that seems kind of limiting. Actually, well, it is limiting, but it's just very limiting. Like, you can't play with any Japanese players or Russian players or anything. Like, it's just, if you're in America, you can play with American players. In Japan, only Japanese players. I'm not really sure why they did that, because it makes no sense, because, like, a lot of Nintendo's games, like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart, you could play national, or you could play around the world, or whatever, international, whatever. But Triforce Heroes was set specifically to the region you were living in. Not really sure why that is. And communication in the game, if you're playing multiplayer online or whatever, playing online with other people, communication is very lackluster. There are buttons on the touchscreen that show, like, oh, use an item, or come here, or good job. But you can't communicate. And here's the thing I don't understand. Why region lock it if we can't use voice chat in the game? Like, if I can't talk to, like, my fellow Zelda players, what's the point of region locking it? Like, if I could talk to them, they could understand me. Or, mostly. But the fact they region locked it and made you use only buttons, it made it seem like they were trying to go for an international kind of online multiplayer, but for some reason it just didn't, go through it all. I don't know. The game's just kind of dull. I haven't beaten it necessarily. Or not by necessarily, I mean I haven't beaten it at all. Like, I could barely play it. I might go online and play with someone else if someone's on, but... the only thing I can really say that was good about the game was the music was awesome. That's it. Just the music. I got nothing else. The game had potential. It didn't, it just didn't accomplish what I think Nintendo really set out to do. I don't know. The game's not very good. Oh, man. So, yeah, Triforce Heroes, it's a dud. I really do hate it. I hate the game with a passion. But them's the breaks. I don't know. I think it's because the single player experience is just so lacking. I mean, even Four Swords had better single player. Four Swords Adventures and Four Swords Anniversary Edition. Its single player was way better than Triforce Heroes, and those games came out, you know, roughly about 10 years or so before Triforce Heroes did. So, anyways, that's gonna cover my Zelda Rants video on Triforce Heroes. I'm glad I can make this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And who knows, maybe my next Zelda Rants video will be on Zelda 2, or The Adventure of Link. Same game, I don't know why I said or, it's the same thing. But it might be about the game, might be about the way the game is looked at by the Zelda community, or by, you know, just gamers, you know, around who have played Zelda 2, who may not be, like, big fans of Zelda, but, like, you know, just looking at why Zelda 2 is the black sheep of the family and why it's hated so much, and why it probably shouldn't be. But that's for a different time. Anyways, guys, thank you all so very much for watching. This is Zelda Maniac S94, signing out.